Good. All right, we're ready. Would you all please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, everybody. And with that, I'll call the Damariscotta Select Board to order for a regular meeting for December 17th. Before we get started, so we've got some guests in the house tonight, so everybody on their best behavior. Yeah. John, do you want to briefly, before I get started, just
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks for talking to Andy. Thanks for allowing the Boy Scout troop to be here. So we have three young boys with Damariscotta's Troop 213 that are here. They're working on their citizenship and the community merit badge. So one pair of requirements for that merit badge is to attend a local municipal government meeting and watch how that unfolds. And the second part of it is during that meeting, they're supposed to witness some sort of discussion where two different opinions are presented, and then they work with their counselor afterwards to kind of explain which opinion they felt was the stronger opinion in their minds. So I'd like to ask them to stand up and introduce themselves. You can go first.
My name is Nolan Pendleton,
And where are you from?
Nobleville. My name is Thomas Roberts, and I'm from Damariscotta. My name is James Roberts, and I'm from Damariscotta.
awesome. Well, welcome, gentlemen. Thanks for coming in. So we'll do our best to make it work for you. Yeah, well, kick you. We'll start.
Yeah, I know. I'll try to find something else.
All right. Andy, any changes, additions to the agenda? Last update.
I'm remembering.
Good. All right. So that means we can't add anything in. Yeah. All right. Good. All right. With that, we shall get started. We do have the minutes of December 3rd and December 10th. Dan, you noticed a discrepancy I missed as well.
I'm gonna leave to my left here.
Yeah.
Make the comments this time.
You got ahead of you on this one.
Make an exception, so.
But this was Andy.
Oh, yeah. It's on the financial reports, accounts payable, number 2, accounts payable warrant 23, there's no second. So
This is from the meeting on
the
the
meeting
third
of
there.
December 3rd.
Yeah.
So,
Anybody remember? Yeah.
yeah.
Want to table?
We can, yeah, we can table that one. I think the 10th is fine, right? Yeah, that's gonna be on it. Yeah, we're just missing that one. So why don't we table the 3rd until we, yeah, so I have to remember who it was, so I have to recheck, but.
Probably have it right.
We do. Well, yeah, and we can. Move
You
on
have
to
it,
the
can't
10th.
we just add it?
You have it.
If you wanna. We wanna give you a second, we'll we'll work on the 10th and then give me a holler, so, yeah. And I think everything, so let's table that for a second, everybody, and then we'll, anything on December 10th? Tommy, good? That was. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of December 10th.
I'll second that motion.
All right, thank you, Daryl. Any discussion? All those in favor? There's only 3 of us there on that one. That was the quick one. All right. And let's do the financials then. We'll give Leslie a second there to take a look, though. You find it, wave at me. Good, okay, we'll do it next time, so we'll table December 3rd minutes till next meeting. All right, we have payroll warrants. We have a 24, 25, and 26. I don't see any reason why we can't move all 3 of those at once. I'll make a motion to move payroll warrants 24, 25, 26. Second. Ooh, I heard Andrea on that one.
Yeah, Andrea's
Andrea got
first.
the second on that one. She's ahead of everybody.
Next to you.
All those, this is good here. Any discussion? All those in favor? All right, good enough. And then we have payroll, accounts payable number 27.
I'll make a motion to approve accounts payable number 27.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Second on that, Dan got that one, I saw him. Oh, all right, that was Dan. And any discussion? Oh, okay, hearing none, all those in favor? Okay, all right. Anything come in last minute for comments or correspondence, Andy?
Not that I was
Yeah,
told.
I don't see anybody with their hands up coming in there yet. Anybody out in the he's got audience. All right, we'll move right along. Andy, your town manager report, and we'll have a chance to take a peek at it. Any highlights that you want to go over, or anybody have any questions for Mr. Manager?
I didn't include in there, most of you were there Monday, but the chargers were launched Monday. Emerson has worked up some FAQs in response to some of the feedback we've seen, so I'll just share, it's kind of put it as a draft in case you guys have
Oh,
feedback,
yeah.
you wanna
Okay,
add anything else, I think you've heard that we should include on something like this, then we can get it out,
yeah,
on the website,
yeah, absolutely.
monitoring that and learning how that works on our end of the dashboard and such, so.
All right.
Other than that, anything major, any feedback you guys heard or on the chargers so far that you had questions on?
Some vehicles there
So,
plugged
yeah,
in,
definitely, there's people using them.
so that's
Mm-hmm.
bonus, yeah. Yeah, it looked like it was a good showing the other morning, so, yeah. It's too far away from me. I didn't have the travel time. It was
Yeah,
too-
yeah.
Got caught up, but I knew you guys got there, so awesome, so, yeah. Great.
Also, I didn't put it in here, but I know one of the other things that's been coming up a lot's feedback on the roundabout. I know Daryl, you had forwarded it.
I forwarded to, yeah,
From someone, that passes through there.
yeah. I think it was somebody from Noblesboro, I think, that had reached out through there, but yeah, yeah.
And Chief Roberts had reached out last week, following the accident there.
Mhm.
Barry
So-
had an accident?
Yes.
There's two back to back.
Yeah,
Were they caused by the same sort of?
No, 2 days, sorry.
Oh, 2 days.
2 days back to back. Tuesday, we didn't go to the one Tuesday, but Wednesday, we went to the truck that rolled over.
the truck, yeah.
Was it
Do
a
we
speed
have
issue
footage?
that they were going too fast or?
Essentially.
Yeah,
So one of the things that's observed, I mean, the fact that it's constructed on a section of road that's posted for whatever the state deems as appropriate is one thing. Another matter is that there's not any signage that would alert folks to a sharp curve or a roundabout at a
Yeah.
speed that is safe at what, and so. That's common in most other locations that I've been able to see so far that are in the state.
yeah, the signage is not,
Indicating that there is a roundabout, if you know what that symbol means. Most of them in other locations have a suggested speed
Mhm.
underneath that. This one
Yeah.
just is posted in a 45 period. So
Yeah.
I've asked at the very least they strongly consider adding that because it wasn't in the plan set. I've reviewed that.
And you can't get around that roundabout at 45.
Nope.
you can try. Yeah,
There certainly were the one, I didn't know about the one the day before. But I definitely told them about the truck.
Would it be helpful if the board had I don't know, I'll call it a resolution from the board, or at least a sentiment from the board to strongly encourage that? I realize it's not a town road, it's a
Right.
state road.
Yeah, I mean.
That would be helpful.
If it doesn't appear to be any movement from them, I mean, I did call and talk to the project manager last week. I followed up with an email, so now it's in writing to see where they're at. It included the regional traffic engineer. So we're just waiting to hear back. I just did that this afternoon. It doesn't follow
well,
up. so.
keep us in the loop, I guess, as if we to give a little push, but
Yeah.
I've heard it from other people, and then just the contact that came through and driving it, I think we've all, everybody's gone through it at this
Mhm.
point, yeah. That's what the
Today.
first thing I noticed, of you, especially southbound coming out to it, there, you have the rotary sign, but it comes up very quickly and it's not that far back, so they're gonna need some. We didn't need to turn a top 10 dangerous intersection into a top 5 dangerous intersection by $4 million.
I don't think it would hurt to tell them that there was another accident, just to follow up, put a little pressure on them.
But it's like it's, yeah, coming in too fast, but
The really
Great.
quick thing to do, I mean, I know, I've been talking to John that, consideration for lowering the speed through that section, as the legal speed lowering is a whole nother matter, but in process,
yeah.
so at the absolute very least, they should be putting that cautionary travel speed. So.
Yeah,
Is there any sign that says like new traffic pattern or anything?
Not that I've
There's
seen.
just two
Hey,
signs.
yeah.
There's one that says yield ahead, and there's one that shows the rotary traffic circle.
Mhm.
And the one right before that is the speed limit changing to 45 miles an hour.
Mhm.
If you hit the 45 mile an hour.
Yes.
And then you come up on the two other yellow signs that, I think it goes rotary and then yield
Mhm.
ahead, and that's it.
Yeah.
So if you don't see anyone else coming, you don't have to yield, so you just
Mhm.
go.
Yeah, you're
And
doing it.
that, when we were at the accident, I saw several pickups, and this was snow covered. They were driving right over the edge of the,
I was
right over
gonna
the edge of
on the apron.
They're going right up over the center.
the center.
Yeah,
They're
Just
not hitting the
outside of the,
foliage, but they're
yeah,
right
just
up.
outside.
gotcha.
So they're going through there way too fast.
Yeah, they're approaching it
Snow
too
covered,
fast.
You can't see, and, you see the truck, but I kind of go like this.
Mm,
up
John, what was the nature of the other accident, do you know?
I don't, so we get an IM responding, it's a system we use to see it, and, there's someone who called the newspaper and said, are we gonna do a story about the two accidents? And I came and said, did the two accidents? I said, well, we went to one, I don't think there was two, and I scrolled back through, and I saw there was a PD only the day before, so we don't respond, you'd have to get that from PD on what the other one is, but,
mhm. Well, yeah, and if you can exercise your contacts and strongly recommend that maybe they take a look at the signage and,
Right.
yeah. That'd be helpful. Keep us in the loop.
there's no way possible for someone to go through there 45 miles an hour.
No.
No.
And stay in the travel lane.
No.
Like this.
Well, what's worse is it implies that it is possible, because it says
Yes.
45,
Exactly.
so people are gonna follow that direction.
Well, the other thing, Andy and I talked about on the phone the other day was, you have all the, GPS maps and everything like that. It takes those a while to get used to a new traffic pattern anyways, but, even if they update them, it's still just gonna say 45. So
Right,
even
yeah.
on your phone, even on your car, if you
So
have
keep
the
it that
speed on your, speed limit on your dash, it's gonna say 45. And, I think Ally reported that, they said the intersection's designed for 20 miles an hour, I think is what they told you, something like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's effectively
designed
going
for
around, it's
20,
25 miles an hour.
45 just makes no sense.
Yeah,
So,
I included that in my attachment to them, that little clip from that article, and then screenshots from other roundabouts the state has put in other parts of the state that show the suggested speed being posted, so hopefully it's just a thing they can get to pretty quickly.
all right. Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dan.
The Joint Public Works Committee, and I was just reading through it, and you guys met with Mapleton, Chapman, and Castle Hill, and they indicated that they work so well, that they work so well. What's their magic? Did they have any insight as to how this sort of thing
Well, they've been
work?
doing it since what, 72
With
for
two-
two towns?
So you have to live through a few generations and then.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then,
It was a handshake before that,
Yeah.
between those two towns,
Yeah.
they've been having some form of interlocal, I think since like the early 1900s.
Yes. Been a long
But since
time.
1972, I think it was officially with an interlocal agreement, and then the third community joined them in the 90s, I believe.
Yeah, very nice.
They did it a little bit different. They've set up basically a joint corporation of 3 towns, where they still have their own town independence and town meetings, town select board. But pretty much all of the functions are shared amongst the 3 towns. And then depending on, they have 2 different formulas, one for the administrative functions. The formulas derived and assessed based on a combination, I think, of valuation, population, might have been another piece. And then for the highway stuff, they do it by an average of the winter and road and summer miles. And then they review that every year and make sure that those numbers are reflective and accurate each year. But by having that other corporations, like another entity that kind of oversees that, which is slightly different than what the committee was kind of leaning in towards, which was the draft, interlocal that Kevin, had presented was suggesting that there'd be like one managing town, as opposed to setting up a joint corporation like they've done. So all for discussion still, but. Yeah, I mean, they just stay in communication, that they're on the same page, they invest in their own capital needs, but share the operation and maintenance costs. They
You
do
say capital needs, would that be like the
road paving,
road paving,
yeah, primarily.
but they share trucks and these sorts of things and workers?
Yeah,
Small
they have
crew. 77
miles of road, that they maintain in the winter, and there's
Four, including the road commissioner.
Yeah, 4 operators.
Yeah, and they do their service work and stuff in-house and. Yeah, it was interesting to
Yeah,
hear from them, as they've been doing it a long time.
A long time and they're successful.
Yeah. The current road commissioner was 16 years with them, but I can't remember, 6 or 7 years as road commissioner.
Yeah.
He's been with them a while. Yeah, so yeah, they've had some time to kind of smooth out the bumps or whatnot for a while, so, yeah.
So listening to them, was there anything that we picked up that would be applicable to us that they're doing right?
I mean, there's definitely some pieces within their interlocal that, are included in the draft one that put together. I think the cost sharing formula is one to look at. They do it one way, doesn't mean it's the only way that should be looked at. I think the challenge is in acknowledging that Damariscotta got a bigger business sense and the Newcastle does, and so does that have an impact on? It's not just strictly road miles, you know, we both have downtown contracts, but our Main Street needs are slightly more.
It's a little different than straight road miles, yeah.
So that's all stuff that's to be looked at,
And
I guess
was the
the big
committee encouraged based?
I think
listening to
so.
them, yeah?
Well, I think it was good hearing, like for me, it was good hearing from, it can be done. It's not something that can't be done. It just depends on what cost and how it's set up, but it is, but folks are saying that this is impossible. It's not impossible.
It's
There are towns that have been doing it for a
so
long time.
It
Yeah.
is
It just
doable.
depends.
Well, it seems to me to be the getting off the ground is the piece that's gonna be the pivotal one. That's the upfront cost. And then you're talking the foreman, everything in-house,
Yeah, the way they're doing it up there, yeah, they've
different
been
pace
successful.
getting out of the gate.
Well, and also. The whole thing of having it very clear up front. What's going to happen between the two towns, will be very
Yeah,
important. And I think also I like the idea that we don't have to rush into this. We can take our time and make sure that it's gonna work for everyone.
Yeah, some of the public feedbacks, there was probably 8 or so folks from the public favor from the two towns. Some of the public feedback, there was a lot of agreement on, not scaling up to the full level all at once potentially to consider, maybe releasing one contract, whether it's the road or the downtown one, build a crew to serve that need.
And
versus trying-
facility.
And facility. And the equipment.
do it by
for that
building it by scale.
size, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like there, so that's the hard part is that all at once, like we're starting from where Newcastle has kind of 0.
Right.
And we have a small crew, we're not starting from like a 50% of what we need on both sides, we're
Right.
starting from 0 and
Mhm.
25 and then trying to get that 100%, that's a big leap. But it was reassuring, like say to hear from those folks, the folks in Mapleton up that way that are doing it, have been doing it, it was kind of an eye opener to hear like, hey, yeah, we have 4. And I think you had asked a question about, do they bring on extra help? And no, like
Yeah.
we plow, it's like, no,
Only
we might
full
hire a loader, but they don't have timers come in and plow, like, it's a lot of workload.
so the residents have different expectations in terms of how frequently they're.
Yeah, so we did take it, the one of the things that wasn't super clear was the, what the written expectations are for, performance.
Yeah.
And it sounded like, we didn't see documentation, but it sounded like it was kind of up to the road commissioner, like, we'll get the roads done, here's, they might be a little bit different than what their expectations are too.
So they tell the citizens to stay home for 3 days? or-
It may be, yeah, right, the expectation.
You know
was
that's
different,
not
or-
true.
Yeah. So that's something to weigh into, what you're expecting to have done and how quickly.
I mean, they still have to get their kids to school, so
Yeah.
those roads have to be plowed.
No, but it's, yeah.
Don't take that
From what I
seriously.
heard, I did echo earlier.
I agree.
The one rule of thumb that was provided to us is when you're looking at your plow routes. You don't really want the trucks having a route of, kind of more than 10 miles. That's a 20 miles, out and back, 10 road miles, some of that's capacity of the trucks and the sand and salt you'll need to treat the roads, some of it's just the length of time it'll take to plow that during a normal event. So you can imagine at 77 miles for a crew, like they're a little,
Yeah,
we've seen that a little bit,
they're stretching it.
but it was kind of a good framework for us to be thinking about. And again, with the downtown expectations, that's a whole nother layer of.
Yeah, that's what
Either
they don't
staff to
have.
do
is-
that, or an expectation that they'll get to it when they get to it kind of thing, and it'll be different than what we're used
And
to.
that's a large layer when you look at our expectations and what we've had.
But it's also interesting because our town really, when we get a big snowstorm, we close.
Mhm.
School closes, downtown closes, the shops close, so it does give us the ability to be able to take care of what we need to do.
Potentially.
So still, but they're still learning a lot,
Mhm.
still a lot of questions.
That's okay, that's okay, but I think that,
Yeah.
that, you know,
I think whatever.
that we have, with Andy and Kevin guiding us, I think that we have a great chance to make this work.
Next meeting's January 13th, it's a Tuesday. I think over there at this point, we're planning to be over there. So.
We should probably get out the word to people that if they're interested, they should come and put in their 2 cents.
Yeah, it's absolutely the time to be weighing in and looking at it and hearing and provide input rather than, the month leading up to a vote to decide.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
All right, great. Well, moving along, anything else, for Andy for,
Just the 2 other things I highlighted, Emerson's, and Gabe are here to share just a quick kind of check-in on the strategic plan process, and then,
so we can do that? Yeah,
wanted to share a little bit about his memo.
absolutely. Let's get the, comp plan stuff, strategic planning update. Oh, that's what, I'm sorry. Yeah, come on up, Emerson. We'll make,
Up here,
make the corner over there. Oh.
anywhere I sit in this room is a corner. Alright, yeah, so today really isn't about formal action items or requests on your behalf, just wanting to share information about, what's been happening since the conclusion of your prioritization workshops, and where we're at now. So Gabe is here to answer questions, provide support, but, I'll be talking at you, and we'll come away with this. We need one piece of guidance from you all about how to proceed, but an outline of steps. So yeah, we'll talk about your prioritization and kind of the results of that and the trends that we saw. Gabe and I's work to do some further organizing and the creation of some categories and tools, which will hopefully help in the implementation process. The staff review that happened and the results from that and what we've learned. The next step of utilizing that ClearGov software, that public facing tool, and then our next steps. So where we left you all, and so the QR code is the same document that you have in your packets, the full 3-year strategic plan. Came up with 26 strategies that were put in years 1 to 3. So that had to be scored as between an 8 and a 9. So pretty high priority from the ranking system overall. So maybe not surprising, housing was the largest and most important priority there. Economy, not far behind, transportation, public facilities and services, and then historical and archaeological resources, which was the downtown flood mitigation work there. So not too surprising. And so we wanted to take it a step further and figure out, all right, well, we've got this list of 26 strategies that we want to operationalize, create projects and progress on. Well, how do we do that? And recognizing that we're probably going to be working with folks from the implementation committee who weren't involved in the comp planning process beforehand, who didn't see that priority work. So we made some new categories. So current initiatives, new initiatives, ordinance and zoning work, regional collaboration, and capital improvements. And so the largest representation there was the current initiatives. That's a lot of like maintaining our status on certain things at the state level, at the federal level, as well as maintaining that the work we're doing for the town, updating the website, making sure that we have a process for meeting minutes, agendas, things like that. New initiatives is real broad. That's anything, any project the town has not yet started or has no prior basis for. We designed that to be kind of a catch-all category in that way. Ordinance and zoning is blame Michael and Mike here. So updating the zoning codes, doing a lot of the ordinance work. Regional collaboration takes a lot of forms as well. So working with neighboring towns, working with NGOs, Lincoln County Regional Planning, all those folks to help maintain partnerships, provide a lot of educational material. That was a lot of what was in those goals, and then capital improvements. So none of the capital improvements made it into the 3-year priority. However, and I think this is a theme that we'll often see come up, is that we're gonna need to start doing that work now anyway, right? Even all of them happen to fall in that 3 to 5 year range, but we're likely gonna have to start to do that work to be able to accomplish them later. So even though technically none of them showed up in that list of 26, I expect that we're gonna be doing that work anyway. Go ahead, next slide. And so with that, we started to create some tools as well. So once a project or a strategy has a category, we'll list the tools that we think very broadly are going to be useful for folks to help accomplish this. So policies, whether that's creation of new mandates, zoning amendments, things like that, stakeholder partnerships, alternative funding, which is largely grants in this case, also the ability to manage those grants, which can be a capacity or staffing, well, not say issue, but challenge perhaps. And then next slide, then outreach and engagement, a lot of that public facing community forward work, internal systems improvement, how can we make sure that on the staff administration side, we're doing things as efficiently, as effectively as we can. Where does there need to be more collaboration? Where does there need to be an analysis or understanding of what fits into people's work plans? And then current operations. So how does this all fit with day to day, right? Because these 26 and the broader list of 100 and something too doesn't really encapsulate what the town office is doing on a day to day. And we don't want to let that be ignored or go down the drain either. And so, yeah, moving on then. Once we had these kind of 2 extra layers of organization, we brought it to staff, and this was a brand new process for them. So I do want to make sure to say that we really appreciate their patience during this process, because it was a learning experience for all of us. And so we brought them the entire comp plan, not just the 26 strategies in years 1 to 3. We brought them the whole list. We had it sorted into those categories that we just talked about, and then listed some of the tools as well, and
If they went
explained.
away.
Well, we I think we were all meeting in that main room there, so they really couldn't go far. And now is not the time to hear if they're or not. And so we introduced the work, talked a little bit about that process, and gave them a Google form. And so that was an example of what that looked like. And so the form had 5 sections for each of the categories. So that was the ordinance and zoning, and listed each of the strategies in there. They had the copy to tell them what the strategies were. And then they could choose up to 5 options. We go to the next slide there, a little bit of a better format. So whether that strategy falls in their current job description or department responsibilities, whether it fits their existing workload and hours, if it would be require additional capacity or resources, if they'd like to take the lead, or if they'd like to be involved in implementing in any of these things, to get a better idea of what capacity do we have, what don't we have, and what are the possible interests, because a lot of the staff has their day-to-day jobs, has their work plan, and is interested and has expertise in a lot of other areas that might not relate. So we want to get a better idea of that as well. Next slide. The Google form creates like an automatic chart based on the responses that come in. What we very quickly found is that chart is not really conducive to easy visual understanding. So this, luckily the capital improvement strategies, right, there's only really 5 in there. So this is easy to digest, but you can imagine that in that like new initiatives, new project section where we have many strategies, that x-axis just goes on and on and on. You lose the ability to understand the message in the data there. So we needed to find a better way to process this and get an understanding of the staff result. And so what we found is that most of what fits into the current work plan is in the plan department. So that's ordinance, zoning, code enforcement, kind of work. And then updates to website, continuation of meeting minutes and agendas. That is what people identify as, yes, that fits into what I already do. We can make progress on that without having to change or add on in significant ways. We also, again, gave that opportunity for staff to express interest in other projects and things like that. And the majority of them were interested largely in housing and transportation, which is good because those are priority areas for us. And it will be great to have that extra capacity and that extra interest to help make this work hopefully a little more palatable for all involved. Things to keep in mind. We did not receive responses from every staff member. They had about 2 weeks to complete it, a little bit of an extra grace period. Granted, this was coming up about 2 weeks before the election, in early November. So if we do this again in the future, thinking about that timing.
The timing.
And we also have had staff turnover in that time. So Tara has left us. She gave to her credit, took a lot of time on this survey to highlight what she was interested in, to really dig deep about what her capacity could be. And so now those responses are no longer applicable. So keeping that in mind as we move forward. And so what we decided to do to kind of get a better idea rather than using those charts was updating our spreadsheet. So we've got the categories, the tools, right? Getting this done may involve those tools. We've added a section for budget implications, estimated costs, notes and comments based on what we heard from the staff. And then if it falls under their purview, do they have capacity? Those repeated questions from the form. And you'll see there that middle strategy has an indicator that says prime. So we've also started to go through and identify what strategies have little or no budget implication at this point. What can be pretty easily done right now, potentially, and recognizing that that might be projects that didn't fall within years 1 to 30. So how can we move them up? That's an ongoing process. So it's mostly Gabe and I have identified those right now. We need to review with Andy, review with Michael, and more staff. So the next slide also shows, again, that's a pretty large spreadsheet. So who wanted to take the lead on those projects, who might be involved, task lists of potential activities that would make progress on there, as well as like KPIs, estimated hours, things that will be filled in later. And so that later might involve using that ClearGov software. And so that's where I really will step into this process. That's kind of the middle ground between this like higher level strategic plan that really just shows the prioritization and that like in-depth, how do we turn this into an actionable, achievable project? We think ClearGov kind of falls in the middle as that public facing entity. And so we're going to test that software by the end of the month. So I'm going to go ahead and hopefully using some of the categories, fill out ClearGov with several strategies from each category to the best of our ability, and see what that looks like, see what the public can glean from it information wise, and if it's effective. There are some limits with the software. The city of Bath uses it as well. So I'm going to do a little bit more of an in-depth analysis to better understand, all right, how are they using it? Have they bought into more of the features that we have not? What can we learn from them in that partnership? The main limitation is there are 3 levels of like organization that ClearGov offers. For the comp plan in there right now, it's goal, policy, strategy. You can't have more than that and you can't have less than that. You got your 3. So we need to figure out for the strategic plan, because it's going to be a separate plan from the comprehensive plan in there, and it's going to have a new structure, what those 3 levels of organization are going to be. So if we go to the next slide, we think right now it's probably good to reference back to that comp plan focus area. That's going to be easily identifiable for people who either were involved in the comp planning process years ago at this point, or who don't have that history with it, can still recognize, okay, this is what this falls under. Where we're going to need your insight is whether we choose to go with the categories that Gabe and I have been working with up to this point, or do we need to combine those with your work plan kind of focus areas that had been created for this fiscal year. I think there is a good amount of overlap there. But it's a question of your preferences, and then we'll have the actual strategy and description along there. We can assign tasks, we can indicate KPIs, we can do a lot within that, but that would be the basic structure. And so what we need at this point is, if we go to the next slide, is really to understand what we want that middle level to be. If you're comfortable with the categories that we've created so far, if you want to see more of your work plan reflected, but otherwise, the next steps that we're working on is Andy is processing the budget implications for each of the strategies so we can have a better idea of that moving forward. That is in process. It is, I mean, that's a lot of work. And especially at this phase when we just don't have that detailed work plan yet. But it's a start. And then, so obviously it's the creation of that work plan, which will largely be a joint effort, I think, between Andy, Michael, myself, potentially Gabe in some way, to be able to help the implementation committee that strategy from the plan that we've created, and within themselves, we'll hear more about that, working groups to make tangible progress on it. So Michael and I have been in conversation about the implementation committee. You'll hear more from him in a minute on that, about engagement strategies, structure, all those things. And then, again, what we need from you is guidance kind of on that middle level and how you want your work
You
plan.
need to get down to 3, right?
Yes.
So the other 2 are already well established, right?
I mean, we haven't started at this point, so if we can change the whole thing, if that's what you feel.
No, start over. But what I'm hearing is you really need to push those 2 together.
Yeah, I think that would probably make the most
That's
sense.
fine.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of ways we can do it, and it's just a matter of if people are going to try and find something specific, we want it to be as easily understandable for them as possible. We
Yeah.
want them, if they are more familiar with your work plan than they are the comp plan, we want that to be reflected. And again, in your work plan are some things that didn't make it into the strategic plan, right? But are still projects that are happening and are important, and that's a way to include those as well.
2 things, we're gonna get a copy of this, cause I couldn't read a lot of it.
Yes, I've prepared, and they didn't make it into the board packet because it is just pages and
Right.
pages of spreadsheet, but I've prepared PDFs of all of this that you all can have to look over, because yes, that text
You
is
can
very
just send
small.
us the link so we can read it.
Yes.
The second thing is, have you already done the comparison between our work plan and the priority strategies? Have you put those together in some kind of a chart or anything?
Not officially, no. So I've done it as Gabe and I were going throughout this process and trying to figure out our categories, we did reference those and use them to inform. We don't have an official visual or anything, but we have, noticed that there are enough similarities. You guys have infrastructure as a category that relates pretty directly to capital improvements. One of the things that we don't have addressed is you have a specific environmental concerns or environmental project related category. That for us is just integrated mostly in new initiatives, but maybe that deserves something. So I'm happy to come up with a
Well,
more.
yeah, just a simplified
Yeah.
chart and just have the category
Sure.
and check box to see if they're matched up.
Mhm. Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, we good.
So that's where we're at so far.
There's been a lot of work.
A lot of work. Emerson.
There's a lot of work.
That's great.
And I do think, thank you so much, Emerson. This is so good and so comprehensive. Really appreciate you capturing it. And just thinking about in terms of what those categories are, what we've been talking about a lot, or sort of what, and Emerson mentioned this, what's meaningful to the public or to the community, what would people sort of intuitively understand as the structure of their local government. This is what we do, kind of. And our thinking was that it really should encompass, not just the comp plan, but everything that is done. And so those categories can be pretty fluid in terms of if you all decide there's a new priority coming in, where is that going to fit? So to have these buckets that are meaningful and intuitive, and really just represent the work of the town, I think, is what we're sort of hoping for. So it could be what we have as our categories. It could be what you have as your board focus areas, or it could be a combination of both or entirely new things. But I think it's like that's an engagement piece as well, right? Because if we're tracking this and sharing this and having the public use a dashboard, really being able to yeah, like I said, intuitively be like, oh, what are the new initiatives, or like what are the capital projects, or what so just have it work from that engagement perspective as well.
Yeah, and I think,
Thank you.
I'd be excited to host, once it's up and running, to host a public training, right? Provide food or something for people who are curious about this, right? Best case scenario, someone's gonna have it pinned to their browser and can check it as often as they want for updates if they so choose, right? But we want people who have never heard anything about this process to still be able to understand it. So, I'm here to do a lot of that community engagement communications role. So the idea is to make this user friendly,
Easy as
to
possible.
interactive, to help people work with it in the ways that they need. So that's something I'm
You probably have two groups of guinea pigs already. The comp plan implementation committee would be like the logical group that
Yes.
should really dig into this and it makes sense. And,
Yeah.
and hopefully this group here would make sense. And the planning board, hopefully,
Yeah.
I would think should have an interest in this. Just as a place to start. In
Yeah.
terms of,
And so the plan for the next, kind of before the new year is to practice, essentially, to put, a few strategies in there, and see what works. Just wanted to get that nailed down, that second level of organization. And then, in early January, we'll see, well, okay, did that work? Is that user friendly? Does that make sense? And go from there. So is there any strong feelings about how to incorporate your board focus areas?
I'm trying to think of just as, if you can get it all into one. I mean, eventually it's all kind of gonna flow together, at some point where, you get the strategic plan, a comp plan, or our old work plan is, one's gonna guide the other at some point. So
Absolutely.
I would think the sooner the better, trying to kind of push it together, I guess. I don't know.
I think you
Has
can
any
make
strong
it
feelings
really
about it,
creative
but
in terms of your
Um,
topic areas.
Great.
So, and make them.
I'm happy to do that. I just wanted to have the unofficial go ahead.
We'll give you a head nod to continue with what you've
The
been
budget
doing.
coming up, which is tied into the work plan, time is of the essence, I think, in trying to come up with it.
Yeah, I fully agree. And so, ClearGov has a budgeting option. It is my understanding that we've not bought into that. So there are ways to talk about the budget implications in here without actually uploading our budget plan. I think their format doesn't really fit with kind of our line item structure. So maybe there's an advantage to not buying into that because it would be more work on our end. But no, I completely agree. I think this is kind of the time to strike, which is why we're trying to move forward on this.
Thank you, Janine. Some kind of clear.
Yeah. I'll take it. I have permission.
We trust you, you gave this far, so you plug it away.
Good work.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, you just put a lot of work into that, so.
Thanks. So I'm gonna hop off, but thanks.
Thank
Have
you.
a great evening. Thanks,
Thank you,
Emerson.
Gabe. Thank you. Good to see you again. Yeah. Right, yeah, puts a lot of work into that. All right, well, next on the agenda, we have something possibly fire related. Yeah. So
Fire away.
we'll see how many hats Mr. Roberts has on this evening. Good evening.
Good evening. So my name is John Roberts. I'm the fire chief in Damariscotta. So the proposal that I'd like to talk about a little bit is we hinted at this at the last select board meeting that there's some real challenges to rural fire departments. In particular is daytime response.
Yeah.
Yes.
Damariscotta, we're lucky in that a lot of our firefighters either work in the area or work for themselves and might be a little bit more lenient in being able to respond than some other towns, but there are some towns out there that, you know, during the day, you literally have one or two people, that's available, so. You know, kind of seeing that trends are, you know, that way, not just, in our community, but statewide and nationwide is the shrinking number of volunteer firefighters, so we're trying to, take a little bit more of a proactive nature about that. The towns of Bremen, Bristol, our town, Newcastle, Millburn, and South Bristol, the 6 fire departments have gotten together and have been talking about ways that we might be able to cooperate on a little bit more coordinated and focused effort than just our mutual aid our mutual aid agreement. To give a name of it, we kind of came up with the name of the Central Lincoln County Fire District because we're centrally located in Lincoln County. We're also the same 6 towns that make up the ambulance service. But the idea of a district isn't like this is one big combined department. This is still 6 individual departments, but trying to have an administrative relationship where we can work together on a closer basis.
Yeah.
At this point, we don't really foresee a budgetary impact right off. So that's why we're, you know, not asking permission to create the district. We're just kind of saying that, you know, we're trying to work together in this administrative fashion. The only real impact right now is going to be time-wise, administratively to try to go through things. So what the future of this looks like, I'm not sure. I think this is the first of hopefully many conversations about how we can work more closely together. But in order to, you know, kind of clear the way for working together more closely, we have to answer a bunch of questions like, you know, if we have a call where we need 6 firefighters in the middle of the day and we only have 2, how can we expeditiously find those other 4 firefighters? So, you know, we're looking at, and we do 1 set of tones. So if you're not familiar, we all carry a pager. I have a pager on me. You know, a certain tone activates the pager. So if we're having on alert only, it doesn't make any noise until our tones go off, and then it tells us what we're doing. So every department has their own set of tones, but we could have a set of tones that activated all 6. So if we want to do that during the day, then you know, all 6 towns could get activated and then respond to the emergency. It's a little bit more of an extension of the mutual aid agreement, but trying to figure out how to make sure everyone's covered by workers' comp and insurance and that type of stuff are some of the things that we need to take care of. And the other is we really need to make sure that as we rely on mutual aid more often, we all have the same policies and procedures so that you can't expect someone to memorize 6 different policies depending on which town they're going to.
Right.
Right now, since we're kind of responding as a unit, the unit kind of does, you know, follows the chain of command. Taken to the next level, this would be more of individual firefighters going to respond instead of, you know, kind of a unit. So that's why there's a change in how that works. So
Have clear cut directions on.
right,
Yeah.
making sure that everything lines up there. So other than that, we've outlined kind of what we hope our first few steps of accomplishing that are. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of personalities that all need to mesh to make this work. So we're not committing to much at this point, but just wanted to.
How many meetings have you had?
We've had 3.
And everybody seems to be wanting to move forward.
Everyone wants to explore the concept further. Yeah.
Sounds like the beginning of the public works.
Yeah, it's first off, I like to commend, you know, our chief and the chiefs of the other towns too for looking, you know, this is pretty forward thinking. And as a tight knit group as firefighters are, and it's going to be hard to because you have your identities and whatnot, But, you know, I mean, we've talked about the realities of what's happening. It's harder and harder to find folks and especially during the day and whatnot. So, I think, yeah, for you folks getting together and looking forward at this is, pretty impressive. You know, so keeping public safety up and even survival of your own departments, you know, even at a lesser level, but,
You know,
It's-
tradition is a really important part and, you know, having pride in your history is
Mhm.
important, so, you know, at town meetings, people go, well, why don't you just do that for them? It's like, well, that's kind of their job. And we've answered questions before, like, oh yeah, we're already doing this, you know, we all rely on each other for mutual
Yeah.
aid. So this is kind of I guess the data behind that statement to show, okay, we're looking at these things kind of on a larger scale instead of
Yeah.
everyone operating independently. So this will kind of back those statements up, I guess.
To make it a little bit more formalized.
Yeah, and at the same time, if you were to, you know, say, okay, now you guys don't exist, this new thing exists, you've now lost, you know, that tradition, you've lost that,
Yeah.
that legacy, so. This allows us all to work, you know, more closely together while still honoring the heritage of each of the groups and still keeping
Yeah.
the independence.
It's just important.
You know, so we're not trying to, again, create an interlocal agreement to have a board oversee 6 different stations. This is truly just call 6 remaining independent and,
Is there a precedent for this somewhere in Maine?
I haven't found anything exactly like this yet. Hancock County, I believe, has a fire district. It's mostly related to like regional training efforts, I believe. We haven't gotten to the point of trying to bring other people into the conversation. Again, we don't even have a vision statement or a purpose yet. So,
Were you the
very early.
catalyst for this? Were you the catalyst for this?
I think all of us having conversations, you know, have come to the same conclusion that we have to try to figure out how to make sure we're still covering our own emergencies. Because if any department fails in covering emergencies, then that's when, I guess our fate is taken out of our hands and someone else is gonna make decisions for us. So trying to make sure that, there's not emergencies in our towns that, go unanswered is always been our priority and our focus, so. It's just becoming, more challenging to address those.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot more, I mean, there's more paperwork involved, right? Sure, it's just,
Right, so
Yeah,
if you start
yeah.
talking about trying to share resources or share positions to try to lighten that load.
Yeah.
Then this is kind of a natural step in that regard.
yeah,
Whether that's 1, 10, 15 years down the road,
Hmm.
that I don't know, but.
I think it's great. I think it's really necessary.
And no, it's easy for me to get ahead of where you guys are, so I really.
I'm sure we've had the conversation, but not
We have,
really,
yeah.
I don't really want to share those
Yeah,
publicly, but.
Yeah.
You know, everyone can see that there's needs and.
Yeah.
You know, our call numbers are up a bit this year because I think we've been to 10 or 11 calls at the roundabout construction, so.
yeah,
Hopefully that.
hopefully that settles down.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's, you know, every year is a little bit different. What's the other thing that's unique is 4 of these 6 departments, have mutual, first responder programs.
First responders, yeah.
Damariscotta, Newcastle don't, so
Mhm.
that kind of adds like another avenue. If we start looking at similar policies, do we just kind of have a separate book for, you know, first responder stuff and attach it to the departments that need it, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of legwork stuff to do before we are even in a position to start talking about, you know, the larger picture and what capabilities this could grow into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I just think this is great. I would encourage you to keep moving it along.
on this.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Keep us informed and yeah, what else,
Yes.
the
Well,
support.
I think like Dan, I had a lot of questions too procedurally, what would happen, and I'm sitting here thinking about it, but obviously there's a lot of weeds to.
You can ask if I'm not comfortable answering.
No.
I'll tell you what
I got your message.
Yeah. So one of the pieces that, we will be coming back to the towns on is, when we get to the point of updating our mutual aid procedures, our mutual aid agreements. So, those, have been signed by all the towns, I believe, pretty much in the county. But back in the eighties, so those haven't really been updated in a long time.
Oh, gotcha.
Um, this effort probably won't supersede that, because that will still stay in effect for the rest of the towns, but it might provide, a little bit more teeth to the agreement. And we discussed this during the budgeting process for the ladder truck that, if, when we don't replace our tanker, we need a little bit more than just, we'll try to send whatever we can, which is pretty much what the mutually.
Yeah,
agreement
need a little
has,
bit
that,
more of a guarantee. Yeah.
we need you to say, yes, you're gonna have a tanker and keep it in serviceable condition.
Yeah.
And when you have a crew, the availability of a crew is still gonna be as available, but the truck can't be.
Right. Yeah,
So-
yeah, we have a ladder, you have the tanker, yeah.
At least that's my initial position. We have the discussion between,
Yeah. Cause it has.
five other departments, that might change, but
Mhm.
that's kind of the process of working with the committees.
No, we'll trust you to keep plugging away and come up with a plan, John, and thank you for it, so.
And
Let us know.
if anyone does have any feedback, direction, or suggestions, I'm happy to hear them at any point. Give them to Andy or.
Yeah,
No,
give
like,
me- reach out if anything comes up.
Get to certain milestones along the way, you might want to come back and, tell us what the progress is.
Yeah, I think first things to try to set up what those milestones are, to know what, where along the road, that means. But as we start having a plan and stuff like that, we'll share it. And certainly if we get into a position where, it's gonna have budgetary impacts, then it would be more of a request than a statement of where we're at, I guess, so.
Yeah, well, as it progresses, yeah, keep us in the loop. I was surprised, Dan, I was gonna ask the same thing. And I assumed there was, and so, but you guys are kind of starting something new without a plan, so, not without a plan, but without probably the history of it, so.
Yeah,
A lot to hash out and.
like the interlocal road or.
Yeah.
Crew, there's examples of towns that have gone together for fire departments.
Mhm.
But that's not what this is.
A little different, right.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm sure something like this exists somewhere, but probably.
But you might be
Slightly
the
different.
first.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Groundbreaking.
Yeah.
And if it works, then this might be a way that other departments can kind of.
Take their
Address
template.
address the same.
With,
Same
yeah,
issues.
rural volunteer departments, small town departments, yeah, they can survive.
Yeah, I mean, there's still some departments that are truly volunteer in our county.
Yeah.
But they don't receive pay or anything, so.
Yeah.
There's, lots of
Mhm.
differences, I guess.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Yeah, good work. Thank you. All right. Well, folks, we can move right into official action items here. Might have something to do with the comp plan. Let's get that. So many plans. All right.
Andy, you put in this Noblesboro, the transfer station.
Oh, sorry, Danny. Yeah. Yeah, you should put some
Can you
numbers in there. for
interpret
us.
it for me? Again, it's like, what should I be taking away from all these numbers?
Yeah.
The great.
You're looking at just the transportation one?
Yeah, no, it goes on
Here
for
we-
page, yeah.
And
It
then-
goes-
Oh, yeah, the report, yeah.
And
that's it.
if we had to do a one on our own,
Yeah.
this is,
Is it telling, I don't know if it's supposed to be telling us that they're doing well or not doing well, or they're challenged, or they're.
So they looked at it before, so they're, if you look at page 11 of the
Okay.
packet.
Mhm.
Their expense and revenue summary,
Yes.
They do it a little interesting. So the way they build their budget, some fees, some things you take there are like, they're not included in. You pick, I mean, there's things demo and tires, hazardous waste. And so there's things like that there's a cost for. But if I'm remembering correctly, they don't really budget for the revenue of those or the cost, that the revenues cover the cost. And so what they typically do is like the staff, facility costs, those hard costs that they know they have in the money that would come from like us in Newcastle. And then like, that's more of what they plan the budget for. So when you look at some of this, it gets interesting. So you see on page 10, it shows the revenue reports. They've had $992,000 in revenue. Okay, according to this, through December 8th. Page 11, the revenue total there. I guess I'm probably certain where some of that gap, there's difference there in what those
Yeah.
revenue numbers look like. But you see the expense total, there at 902. Revenue 989, so they're showing a positive, balance, on the year to date at that point of $86,000, above what they expected. I think that's probably the biggest takeaway.
Okay.
They're on a calendar year, so they're
Mhm.
January, there'll be another one in January. There's usually a budget meeting of the transfer station, group, council of government, I think they're called, as they created it. Page 30 shows you some of those activities, there were some of those. Okay, and the demo, the dump, the hauling fee for the demo, the dump fee for the demo.
Mhm.
And then you get metal, tires, hazardous waste, so some of that's. My understanding is how they have it set up, that's some of those costs, they aren't like, let's say, budgeting for upfront.
But they know they have them every year.
Right, but the fees that are collected directly offset it, right, and so it's again, those harder fixed costs, and those trio kind of. Those sheets that aren't so fun to look at that we're used to seeing on our end from Trio that go from page 12 to. Yes, that one, that's all this detail on personnel costs, uniforms, propane expense, and so. That's just going down as they're paid, showing you that level of detail. All of those things that have gone out the
So
door.
that's basically their annual expenses in a list.
Mhm.
And where do the fees that we pay those, where do those? Go to?
Yeah, so those are, they don't itemize those out, but they'd be
No, they don't say who
included
the town
in,
pays
you know,
what.
pages 10 and 11, just in the revenue total.
Okay.
They don't, on this particular report, have that broken out.
Yeah, I gotcha, yeah.
I can see. But
So
when
we
they do
don't-
their budgeting, they show the expenses kind of in a way that we would. And then show those offset costs coming from, and they basically take the expenses and. Less those special ones that are cash based and pay
Yeah.
by the users, and just figure out who owes what from the 4 downs.
And is it random? How much they decide who
Uh,
pays what?
Formula's a little.
Creative.
Yeah.
And we
Interesting.
have no say because we don't have a note on the board.
Correct, well, we're not a member of,
Uh-huh,
yeah, it's a 2-town, entity,
right.
so. Kevin and I attended the meeting last year, and we'll share when it is this year, if others are interested in attending.
Yeah, for available, interesting.
Yeah. All good to know about it. I mean, this is something I don't think that we were getting on a regular basis last year, and so as they come in, I'm just sharing them with you so you can see it.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm. Well, I think we should know it. Since it is an expense for us.
Okay.
Thank you, Andy.
Yeah, I'm really trash, hopefully. All right. There we go. All right, let's let's move into official action items and let's talk about comp plan,
Mhm.
strategic plan, comp plan, board plans. Lots of plans. Hi, Michael, your turn, finally. Come on up. Yeah.
All right.
Hello. Oh, sorry. Hey,
How you doing?
how you doing?
Planner. For anybody watching at home.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have
Remember
anyone.
who you are, yeah.
Oh,
recording all.
yeah, well, that's true. I know people that watch it after, absolutely.
It's in planning board meetings, it's.
Mhm.
So we have some recommendations for the implementation committee here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I tried to just distill down to a certain extent some of what we had already shared with you. Rather thinking for the comp plan implementation committee. And so, we don't need to go through all of it, but I tried to lay out the purpose. I think providing some structure and direction for the implementation committee will be important, especially in like 2, 3, 5, 7 years when it's like, why were we created again?
yeah.
So I've got that, provide a clear purpose, define a functional but flexible structure, officially create the committee, which I think that it's, that's important. And then formally appoint the members, just kind of like that, I think is what I hope, what I recommend to the select board that you do. So as far as the purpose of it, and I'll just kind of read what I underlined, but provide information, guidance, and recommendations. Ideally, this group will become pretty well versed and familiar with the comp plan, what's in it. And then they can provide guidance and recommendations to the board. One of the things Andy and I have talked about is we want to make sure that it's kind of clear what their relationship to the select board, to the planning board, to the budget committee, to town staff is. You know, you five are the elected officials, so like you get to, I guess you're the deciders, really. We don't want them saying, no, we're here to tell the select board what to do. And I think with the people that we're recommending, I don't think that'll be an issue, but I just want to make sure that it's not,
Still need the clear, yeah.
They're here to advise.
yes, exactly. And public outreach, that's the next one, is kind of direct public engagement, I think will be important.
Mhm.
Form direct and dissolve ad hoc working groups, that's something that I want to make sure is kind of clear that, well, especially that you're all comfortable with, but when we get into the structure and kind of the function of the group, it's 7, 9 people, and I don't imagine that this core group is what I'm calling it, the core, the actual implementation committee is gonna be meeting more often than maybe every other month, quarterly. And a lot of the work it's gonna require more meetings than that to get a lot of this work done. And that they'll form ad hoc working
Smaller
groups
groups, yeah.
that will do deep dives, and then we'll be able to pull members of the public in, especially when people are particularly interested in one area. And I've got a lot of people that have kind of said to me, like, I want to be part of this because I really care about X or Y. And I want them to be involved. I don't think being part of that core committee hopefully has a larger, kind of broader view. So we can bring in the more kind of passionate people to dive into specific issues.
Gotcha.
Coordinate, facilitate discussion, interpretation and refinement of policies and strategies, define and monitor metrics, provide regular updates to the select board and to the public at large, and consider potential updates and amendments if needed, as needed. Yeah, I said in here to coordinate, not duplicate efforts, and that's, I wanna, and I think that it's more important just as we're getting set up. I imagine hopefully when we start to get into the swing of things, it'll be kind of clear where everybody fits in. And then the interpretation and refinement of policies and strategies, that I think we'll see exactly how it'll fit with the strategic plan that's being worked on. But I think that as this implementation effort moves forward, there's gonna be a lot of unpacking of like, well, not so much what did that mean? There's definitely gonna be some of that, but also like, well, how should we go about actually doing that? And this will be a group that at least can start put some thought into it, and then have the conversation with the select board, with the town staff, and say like, we've had some conversations on this. Ideally, you'll see from the membership or the recommended membership, that we're trying to have a balance of residents and ideally everybody's a resident, but there's also, Damariscotta's got a number of organizations that are really helpful and are part of the community, and I think being able to leverage some of the expertise and also just the connections and the resources that they have will be important. So you see, I got a number of people that, you know, Coastal Rivers is on here, the hospital's on here, Chamber of Commerce, so
It's great.
being able to pull them in, it hopefully will yield good results. So, structure, core group of 7 and 9, I've only got 7 people recommended right now. I don't want to leave any, I didn't want to like pack it and skew it one way or the other, because
In case there's someone that really should be on those.
yeah, right, and I will say, there's definitely people that I could have identified to put in your organization's residents. And I wanted to leave at least some room for you all, if there's someone who very obviously is missing, or if the implementation committee is like, well, after looking at this, you know, this group or this person should really be brought into it. And so I didn't assume that I was gonna have everybody on here, but I've got what I think are, you know, my best roundup of recommendations for members.
And most of these people want to do this.
Yeah, and I have confirmed, I met with a number of them over
You
the
asked me
last
first.
several months, and everybody's interested, and I just recently reconfirmed, like, I'm actually going to recommend that the board appoint you. Are you interested? And yes, everybody said.
Well, just the fact that Mary and Adam are on it, because they were part of writing. it.
Yes, exactly, and that's, I
Great.
figure, you know, the more that we can include, especially early on, hopefully, you know, Dan will be involved and you will be involved, because you also were part of writing,
Absolutely.
so.
Yeah.
Cause I know there's some people that, you know, that was a lot of work, and they were happy to be done with the process, and I can appreciate that. I'm sure that they'll be engaged here and there, but.
Yeah, if we can think of a couple other names, should we get them to you so you talk to them and reach out?
Sure,
and-
yeah, happy to, you know,
They might have a, you know, slightly different perspective,
yeah,
just in
oh,
terms
yeah.
of where they are in the community, kids in the schools, that sort of.
That's-
thing,
So, and that's something that has come up is, you know, I met with the superintendent for the, I guess it's an RSU now, yeah. And, you know, one of the things I mentioned was like, comp planning, the way the Growth Management Act, and the way the state lines it up, the schools are like, it's not even included in the guidance they give you. So that I think is a really big, you know,
It's a gap, for
miss
sure,
that
yeah.
the state's got. So, you know, so the comp plan doesn't identify a ton of things that you would, are obvious partnership opportunities with the school, or fire and police too, I think are other, I mean, they're of the town, but so I think we're gonna have to find opportunities, or we're gonna have to maybe think a little bit outside of the specific strategies that are identified, and say, like, well, we should probably work with the school on X, Y, and Z. Some of it is like, they're gonna wanna know about what kind of housing the town's trying to build in terms of numbers, so you can get.
Not thinking of an individual, but I think we might want to consider somebody from one of the real estate firms.
Sure.
And because of the relationship to the strategic plan and real estate
Yeah, yeah,
and their expertise in that area, as well as maybe one of the major financial institutions, because.
That definitely, yeah.
I think they would be interested, and I think they could be helpful too.
I think that makes
But I'm not
sense.
suggesting an individual. I can give you some offline.
Yeah, I think that's smart, because that, you know, we did identify, I went to, see Rising Tides on here, Chamber of Commerce, the hospital in Coastal Rivers, and I went to them and just kind of said, we want your organization to be involved, but the conversation that Andy and I had were basically, we really should have a person. Now, but that gets appointed, I did have talked with, and these 4 people said, yes, they will be the appointee if so designated. But I wanna make sure, I did have the conversation with them, like, you can send a representative, if you're not able to be here, if you can't make one of the meetings, like, please, we want the organization to be involved, and you're ultimately like the responsible decision maker, but if you've got someone that you wanna send so that you're at the meeting and they can report back and all of that,
Yeah.
like, I think is a practical way to get them involved, and and then we'll have some other considerations there,
Mhm.
but, yeah, I think, like a broker. And I will say, I think, I was looking at like the Chamber of Commerce, I think will be a good conduit to, there's a lot of businesses and a lot of, there's no way we can get all of them in here,
They have
so
a big group.
I figured.
Through them.
That there, again.
They
It's
do that.
over 300 businesses have.
Right,
Michael, just for clarification with the ongoing information with Emerson and David have been working on and with the implementation committee, how does it tie in with the strategic planning and stuff too? You know, how are those, like, you know, we have a lot of separate information coming, not separate, but
right.
where's the tie-in there? Just to help me out with that a little bit.
So that's something that Andy and I had a conversation with, I had a conversation with Andy today about, was trying to understand how this is gonna fit, because I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure, but I wanna, because I think that the implementation committee, I think first of all, one of what my hopeful purposes for them is this community outreach. So I think that bringing them in for a lot of that, doing the engagement to say like, here's your comp plan, what's in this? And then also unpacking some of these strategies. I think where we're at right now with the strategic plan, or with the comp plan is, it's fresh. You know, this was just adopted, this was just created. So everything in there should still be pretty well supported by the community. And we gotta get this thing kind of rolling, figuring out how are we gonna get our arms around doing it. So I think this is a reasonable opportunity to say, okay, let's get this, the actual strategic plan going based on first take. As it evolves, that's where I think the implementation committee will be kind of more involved in saying, how did this work? What do we need to adjust? And making kind of more recommendations to you all and to Andy and to the town staff saying, okay, good start. This makes sense. This direction, that direction. I think some of that still needs to be fleshed out.
Okay, no, that's fair enough. That's this was put together in my head. I'm looking at like we got kind of pulling the comp plan into a strategic plan,
Right.
and you've got these levels laid out in that. And if you have, you know, a separate group coming in, that's are they doing another strategy, going a different direction? And is there any cohesion there? And make sure it's
Well, the strategic plan is built from the comp plan
Right.
directly.
Right.
So if I'm just sharing my vision, I push this is.
yeah. We talked about it. I was
Right.
just need
So
clarification. So
because the comp plan is a visionary document, and it is a very impressive, forward-thinking visionary document, it is not an operational piece. It doesn't inform staff, doesn't give me the guidance from you to then inform staff as to what our priorities are, what we're working on, what our budgets are based on, what we're advocating for funding to accomplish what. And so that strategic plan, starting with the comp plan initiatives, because it was such a public process, adding in the things that you've been working on that aren't directly listed in and mapped to the comp plan goals, and just realizing what are our limitations, you know, staff wise, budget wise, and actually diving deeper than what the comp plan ever did to understand when June comes, what are we doing? Because it's a great to aspire to, so we have a general sense of where is it the town wants us to head. And then that strategic plan just kind of focuses us staff wise to focus resources, as opposed to this. Take your pick, I mean, you throw a dart at any one of those and go, I mean, we need focus.
Yeah.
Well, I think the community is gonna want some focus too, because I mean, it's almost confusing to us in terms of what are we talking about here? Strategic plan.
There's lots of parts to it.
We're talking about comp plan. You know, part of the community is concerned at some level, it's just all planning and strategy, and this is this community that's moving forward. So somehow this clear cut software almost because I don't know, somehow that has to work together like this, because if that's gonna be the outward facing I mean, it's gonna be on our website, it's gonna be updated regularly, hopefully, and create goals and they can be, you know, affected by the comp plan implementation group as well, because I can see them working very closely with you. And at least from the perspective of the community, I think we need to make it as clear as possible, and because otherwise once it gets mushy. So I think we have an obligation to keep it as clear as possible for them, so.
Concise.
Yeah, I think tracking progress.
Oh, well, we had conversations about this today, because it is, right, it's hard for us to keep track of. There are so many, we have a lot more resources, I think, and a lot more of this work accomplished than we even think we do, because all of it lives in slightly different places at the moment. But I think a strength of the implementation committee as it is built or envisioned right now is its fluidity, and really I'm really excited about the working group aspect of it. And what's great in ClearGov too is we can assign people, or accounts to tasks. We can assign them check-ins. We can assign them to update the progress and show that, and that gets represented visually. So we can assign, if we want, each working group to specific tasks and get them fluid in the software, get them to be able to update it in real time. So I think there are a lot of ways to make those connections really clear, to have avenues for accountability so that people are checking in, and even if no progress is made, we can still determine the best path forward. And I think that's some of the work that we've been trying to do, is figure out, all right, if we're starting at the level of the comp plan, how do we filter that into a result? So I think we're headed on, we're not there yet, clearly. But I do think we're having those same conversations about the topics you all are right now.
One of the things I mentioned to Michael today, one of the realizations is 168. What do we call them, strategies that were in the comp plan, like they could all get done in a 10-year period as that plan was envisioned to encompass. But it's gonna take a lot of resources, take a lot of partnerships. And I think one thing that's gonna be helpful is having the board trying to put its arms around, okay, what do we feel we can commit resources to, not knowing how the budgets will get approved every June still. But at least again, giving that guidance for those that have come in and said, where is this going next year? What happens in 2 years? That's the piece that I'm hoping they kind of look at and we focus on it from a budget perspective. And then every 3 years or however frequently we end up reviewing that as a select board to update that. You're pulling back in the comp plan. Where are we on those things? Let's make sure we aren't losing sight of the same time the implementation committee might care of changes in law. I mean, there's a pretty substantial one out there right now that I think is in effect, and it might come up with more changes around, you know, the amount of density of housing units that are when you're connected, your property's connected to solar and sewer.
Right.
That wasn't in the purview when the comp plan was being drafted. Not in that.
2003 was our biggest concern.
I think that's gonna change.
Yeah, but the strategies. We're gonna have new strategies, and we're gonna have strategies that just aren't relevant anymore, that are gonna have to drop off from the, but hopefully the larger vision is still there, right, so.
And I think that's, and that's something that I want to bring up with the strategic plan is to make sure that the goals and policies that are in the comp plan don't get lost. Cause it's, and I've been going through the strategic, the implementation matrix, the whole list of strategies, trying to say, what projects can we actually form this stuff into? Because there's a lot of stuff in there, and some of them overlap, and some of them are just, you need to start now, but you need to do this strategy, then this strategy, then that strategy. And we talked about the drafting committee, talked about that the goals are like the lighthouse off in the distance, and then the policies kind of how to get there, and the strategies are shifting. Now, hopefully they haven't shifted too terribly yet, but over the next 10 years, they're going to shift. But hopefully the policies are a little more stable, and the goals really shouldn't be shifting. And so I think that's where the implementation committee will be kind of trying to, I think, keep their eye on the long-term goals and policies, and that you all and the town staff are trying to like figure out what are the most practical strategies and how to interpret this strategy and that strategy. So there still is, I mean, I think it's not surprising that you're asking this question, because the way I understand it is you all are kind of at the middle. There's the big picture that the comp plan and the implementation committee are going to be focused on, and then there's the practical, how are we gonna pay for it?
Mhm.
Who's gonna do it? And that's gonna kind of, bottom up, top down
Come together.
is your problem. I mean, our problem as well, but you're the town, so. We're gonna have to figure it out. There's probably more work to do, and I think some of it's gonna have to get hashed out as
Yeah.
we're moving.
That's a fair answer, it's a lot of moving parts to it,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
It's complicated and.
Yeah.
Um,
So, yeah, so the board, oh, sorry.
no, I just,
Yeah,
the membership, I've got that list there. The one thing that I didn't write down is, at least to start off. I imagine this will be 3-year terms, but to start off, need to stagger them a little bit. So my suggestion was that I've got the kind of 3, I'm gonna say at-large residents, appointed them for 3 years. And then some combination of the other 4 to be 2 years. And then I think we could really just put one person in for 1 year, and then as we fill, if we fill somebody, we'll just, if there's someone we add now, for a year. And I would say,
I mean, some of these things, they might change the person anyway,
yeah, well, I think,
because we should always have coastal rivers on this,
right, and I think that,
or whoever.
no, I agree. I think that I think Coastal Rivers should be a really key partner, and I'm happy that they said, yes, that we want to be there. And one of the considerations in the conversation I had with them and with all of the businesses is like, how much time is this gonna take? This can be a monthly, twice a month committee, or is this gonna be quarterly, every other month?
Mhm.
So I want to be cognizant of their time.
Mhm.
And so if they do change, if they say like, if someone wants to, I don't have the time, I'm gonna step down, we'll just reappoint
Mhm.
somebody new.
Yeah.
And I know, I go on, so I'm sorry, I'm not being considerate of your time, but,
You're fine. So, yeah, as the board, we, per charter, we can form and dissolve, committees. So if nobody else wants to, I'll make a motion to, form the, Comprehensive Plan Implementation Committee. That's what we want to call it. So
yeah.
that's official. I have a second for that. Andrew's got a second, and any discussion on that motion? All those in favor? Okay, so we have now voted in favor of forming a comprehensive plan implementation committee.
Yep.
Next step would be appointments.
And maybe I suggest maybe saying.
Go ahead.
Up to 9 members. You can always, I guess, expand it, but at this point.
Yeah, I think we can, I don't know if we need an official because we don't really lay it out, but
Well, that was the thing. Do we state terms and everything in this?
I think you should, I mean, you got the document, that kind of guides. what
it's
you're
pretty
looking
much
for.
laid out,
I
yeah.
think if you were to,
What Michael said is works.
yeah, I think if you were to continue with this and thinking of appointing the members as listed,
Mhm.
and however you want to allocate terms to those folks.
Yeah, so
Go right down the line from
three-
top to the bottom and go 3, 3, 3, 2, 2, 2, and 1 if you wanted, or.
But one consideration of this list is that I spoke with Heather Burke, who is with Rising Tide.
Mhm.
And there may be changes over there, and I said, well, we'll just appoint you a 1-year term, and then if we're gonna have to appoint somebody again in a year anyway, so if it's you, great, and if it's someone else, great.
But most
So-
probably it will be someone from Rising Tide.
So, did you talk with some of these people and implied it would be a 3-year term and they agreed, or?
Yeah,
you did?
The first 3.
I spoke with all of them and said it's gonna be, 3-year appointments. Now, they can always step down,
Yeah.
but yes,
We want to
that's.
stagger, so if we do the first 3.
Hopefully, no one will be too disappointed if they get appointed for only 2 or 1 year, but.
Well, you need at
Because they
least a
get- they're-
couple of people that have that kind of dedication.
And we shouldn't have
Yeah,
a term
they're
limit,
looking at. the-
No,
12
no
months.
term limit, so they can get reappointed.
Yeah, exactly. I figure it'll be similar to the planning
Let's-
board.
Let's keep it at a working 9 then, for the total number. We probably don't want to go any more than that anyway, so.
Yeah.
You get a little lumpy. Yeah, so let me see here, if we do, Mary, Adam Jeffers, Jim Cush. And you just mentioned, I think Heather Burt, but as a
Just
as a 1 year.
One.
All right, so I'm just gonna do a kind of a random thing here. You give me a second to get my thoughts in order.
And
All right.
the other three, Ann Rundle from the Chamber of Commerce, Brooks Betts from the hospital, and Katie Beaver from Coastal Rivers, I figure could be the 2 years.
So which, sorry, Michael, which
Five,
one? We did three,
7 years.
5, 6, and 7. Oh, do the rest of those 2 years. Okay. I just want to.
And then the vacant ones will be like the 1 year.
Yeah.
If we fill them when we.
Well, we'll leave them, leave them open right now, so, okay. So I would like to make a motion, to make to appoint, up to 9, members for the, comprehensive, plan implementation committee. We're currently, Mary Devlin for 3 years, Adam Jeffers for 3 years, Jim Cush for 3 years, Heather Burt for a 1-year term, Ann Rundle for 2 years, Brooke Betts for 2 years, and Katie Beaver for 2 years, with the 8th and 9th positions currently vacant, pending recommendations.
Yeah, recommendation by you.
All right, how's that sound? Second?
Second.
I've been trying to put that together for 10 minutes.
Very good.
Trying to give you space.
Thank you. All right. Seconded, that was our discussion. Any, all those in favor? Okay, all right. Good luck.
Yeah. Any other
Thank you,
thoughts,
Mike.
comments?
Yeah,
If you
yeah.
have anybody that you're thinking you'd like to recommend or add to this, I think I would love.
Well, I
to
just
hear
want to
them.
reiterate, a real estate firm, somebody.
Yeah.
I could give you recommendations, but you have to talk to those people.
Yeah.
But, and a financial institution, like this gentleman's done.
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be some.
They play a big
Come
role
up,
in
yeah.
the future of this
Yeah.
town.
Yeah, no,
The
absolutely.
first does
Absolutely.
especially,
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I agree.
would be great.
So words out, need some, couple more volunteers would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no ideas, just send them along to Andy and he can get them where they need to go, so.
Perfect.
Yep, awesome, Michael. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
work. So, thank you. All right, and we have some cemetery work here. Oh, where, this was right in front of me here. Get those in front of me.
Page 33.
Yeah, I lost my page, Andy. Thank you. I just snuck it in front of me here, so. All right, so this is a new cemetery deed.
One purchaser, 3 lots, both for the cemetery deed, the purchase of lots and then the care and maintenance of the same lots.
All right. We've got 3 lot numbers on this one, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Do you want a motion?
Yeah, go ahead, Dan, if you want to take it. Yeah.
I move that what do we issue or present?
Issued the deed to
Issue the deeds, cemetery
Yeah.
deeds for lots, in Hillside, annex to lots. 1098, 1099, and 1100.
Sounds like an IRS lot.
Awesome.
Does.
Thanks.
Yeah, does.
There a second. It does.
Mhm.
Gonna get audited there. Any discussion?
Lucky person, but it's buried in that.
Hearing none, all those in favor? Alright. And you wanna take the second half of that, Dan?
Sure, and to
Perpetual.
enter into a perpetual care and maintenance contract with Lori Hill for lot numbers 1098, 1099, and 1100 in Hillside Cemetery Annex 2.
Awesome, thank you. A second? I'll take a second. And any other discussion? All those in favor? Okay. Yes, all right. My staple came out.
Mine did too.
Yeah,
Guys have been full
my
of.
packet exploded. I'm sorry. No. Yeah, we haven't argued yet for the young gentleman watching here. It was something at the end, so.
Maybe it
All right.
wasn't like 50 pages.
Then we're on the end here. So, okay, so let's move into final, more or less final item here. We presented with the police department assessment. It's just everybody got a chance to go through it and
Mhm.
take a look at it. Yeah.
In reading it, it sounded much more balanced and positive, and then when I looked at the list of recommendations, I'm thinking, that's like.
Exactly where I was.
Work.
I got the recommendations, I was.
Jeez.
Well, it seemed like a lot of the recommendations were a lot of continuing of,
Yeah.
things that efforts that were being made,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, which is good.
I did add that piece at the very end, the way it was set up was, you know, kind of each section had a bit of a general context for what's in there, why it's important, and then dove into our practice and then had a recommendation, so.
But you had.
I put those 3 pages of just a continual list,
So we can blame him, right?
Pull that out,
Yeah.
I was going back and forth like, okay, there's this here and then here's these.
No,
In my mind, it was easy just to see it.
Don't show it to our.
Analyst there.
We need it.
My sense of the recommendations was almost like a, not a to-do list, but for you and the new chief.
Mhm.
It was,
Yeah.
it was my
Yeah.
sense.
And I viewed a lot of those as
Yeah.
things to be reviewed when he gets in,
Yeah.
Yeah.
whoever gets
Just wait
in.
until he accepts the position before you.
Don't get before we start saying.
But also my sense was reading through it is that they were they were generally very pleased with, I think, the department, pleasantly so, I think. That was my takeaway.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
No positive.
Well, and
Yeah.
public perception too, like the department itself, and then
Yeah,
what they picked up on
Yeah.
their interviews and
Yeah.
whatnot outside of
Yeah.
that.
yeah, and what they're doing like in community policing.
Yeah.
Do more of that. That seems really important.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
sort of a
Well,
big
Obviously,
thing. So,
very thorough job, that's for sure.
This is, I mean, timing wise, we know why we did it, but it seems like it's a great tool for an incoming chief, you know, to change in administration, to have this to present, so like, we have this done, here's an assessment done by your peers.
Yeah,
and-
perfect.
And I think it was a good, you know, recommendation on Andy's part for us to do that at the same time, and it can be able to present that to somebody as a working document. Do you have any comments or takeaways from it that you want to throw in there, or?
Just reiterating for those that were ever wondering, it was never meant to be an aha moment in any of that, right? This was
Right.
a voluntary effort to say like, how are we doing? And I've talked to some of the, you know, folks downstairs and saying like, we did the same type of study upstairs. You know, as a reflection of the general government, like, there's gonna be plenty of things there too, probably more, right? It's like,
Absolutely, yeah.
seeing this as an opportunity for, you know, improvement, not because it's wrong, but or enhancing what we're doing as some of these things were. I think it's just so helpful to understand, for the public, you know, when we're having conversations or as they come up, as it did in the first budget, the last budget committee meeting. Again, about just what it costs to have a police department, right? And so tying it back to some of these things to understand, I think there's just a missed mark on understanding what it is our department does for the community in some ways. That some of this will help us tie into, but communication is one of the things in here that we need to do more of.
Yeah, you just touched on something. How much of this and when is gonna be communicated back to those people that were interested in, you know, the process?
is this a public document that? It's not just, okay.
Where we put it exactly on the website, so we can put it on PD page for now, I guess, but.
Sure.
Yeah, that's the next step is,
Still, but.
is getting it out there,
Right.
so folks can look at it,
My
and assess it.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So,
Go ahead.
having said that, I did have a couple other takeaways that I thought was interesting, at least relative to the budget, because we've been talking about this for years now. And they actually provided some comps to other communities that I found particularly interesting. And I don't know if others picked it up as well, but you know, that in terms of, you know, they were talking about police costs per resident. and I'd never thought of it that way.
That was
So that was a helpful.
yeah, that was very helpful.
metric
Yeah.
For me.
Mhm.
And we were the most expensive per resident of at least the 6 communities they indicated there, and quite a bit more so than like Wisconsin and Waldeboro in particular, so that was interesting. I don't. I'm just ruminating on that for a while and thinking about that.
Well, I think it's
So they have
helpful,
more residents.
helpful context too, is like, where do we fall on that list of cost per resident with the number of residents we actually have?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because no matter how many you have, depending on your service level, this would be the same conversation around Public Works around creating something bigger. Is you can do it by road miles. What's the cost per road mile? Is that the only way you're measuring this? Is that the fair way to measure this? Because you still have a high building cost. You have to build a building to operate out of. And so do you run that over your road miles? Because with 2022, we're gonna look really high there as well. And so it's just a question within like, is that the metric we want to compare to? It's one of.
I don't know, and then the other metric they actually dropped in there, which I was able, was the officers per population, 1,000 population. So Damariscotta is 2.1, so we have 2.1 officers for every 1,000 residents. And then Waldeboro has 1.1, so they're half of what Damariscotta is.
Yeah, they're, what were they, 5,000 or better?
Yeah, so it's a
Yeah.
larger community, but in terms of thinking about it from an officer per 1,000 population, it was just another way to look at it. It was just another.
Well, they're,
But also recognize we only have one person on and we don't even cover the 24 hours.
Well, that's right, and then they're suggesting that really maybe you need. They said it without saying it, is that they think you need at least another officer to have the 24-hour coverage as well.
I think
So
that's
to-
directly in the recommendation.
Yeah, so just trying to put those all into a, make sense of all that, so.
Right. And it was kind of twofold in that regard. It was looking at, for 24-hour coverage, you kind of have to add another person.
Yeah,
But also, another part of it was about, kind of creating a structure that one affords the supervisor the chance to actually supervise staff. And overlapping them, because right now there really is no direct overlap
Right.
with the sergeant and the other officers. And then, the other piece of that had talked about, kind of if you were to consider and get to the point where it was another position, maybe even treating it as more of a specialized type position that affords another level for someone to, within the small department, to work towards. That it's not just three patrol officers, a sergeant and chief, that if you create another layer in there, it kind of becomes an opportunity to help them hone in, but also create that hierarchy. You do the same thing in a public works department. If all you have is one, 2 levels, a supervisor and all just laborers,
there's no growth.
where am I going to?
potential.
People that come and work for you wanna know that there's an opportunity for advancement, or they're going to leave, or there's gonna be complacent with where they're at.
The good news is we have an experienced person, one way or the other, whoever who's the candidate, with 30+ years or whatever experience, so they'll have a lot to say about how this is gonna be implemented.
That's a great document for them to work off of, so it was well worth the effort, yeah.
And again, overall positive. I thought it was very positive reading.
Yeah,
Did you get a chance, you and Tom, before the public meeting, was asking about data and calls and trying to compare crime stats, and was finding himself down some websites that were talking about stats, and
yeah.
one thing that was noted in here was a resource the state, I think it was the state has, that can get you right into and look way back, and that's where they pulled some of their numbers from. Which I thought was kind of helpful, because there's only so much they're able to kind of pack into this summary document, really, when you want to look at data points and stats. It is a department that has a lot of data. Fire's the same way, EMS the same way. Those reporting tools are obligated to put in and report for. And talks about what's your response time, for our police department, when they're logging it in there, the average time on a call. To me, that's really interesting. I had that last year from the chief to look at, when you see there's a lot of property checks, but they're only 19 seconds on average per check. But then the average response for a vehicle stop is maybe 10 or 11 minutes. How many of those are we doing? Or the MBA on average is 30 minutes. We can start to look at how time is actually being spent on what types of calls. And, what's needed in the community.
We're just speaking of more stats, and
There's a lot of
Tom
stats.
can dive into it too, but they had a measure of crime per community, and Damariscotta, fortunately, was a relatively low community. And
The percentages.
where a couple of our neighboring communities were high.
Right.
I was really surprised, like at Wisconsin, the numbers were huge.
Lower police force.
That must be-
I was surprised with Wisconsin's.
Direct correlation.
Direct, yes.
Well, but then there's Waldeboro.
Yeah, I think one of the recommendations in here, one of the challenges, each department, though there is like a standard of reporting. How each department kind of classifies, and there is a little bit of difference, I guess, amongst departments, how they classify certain things. And so I think that was one of the things I was kind of talking about, and I know I talked with my colleague Thomas did earlier on before we started this, was to try and figure out how, is there a way for us to like benchmark ourselves and then come up with a standardized way to know that like every time this happens, we're gonna report it under this code, or when this happens, it'll be under this code. And so that way we can better compare ourselves to some of our counterparts.
I don't wanna comment, but when I looked at it about 6 months ago, because if I comment, I could probably mislead people on the stats, but it's interesting to look at the crime levels in some towns, the number of staff they have, the expenses they have, and there seems to me, without speaking specifically, the correlation. you know, the less police force, the more crime that seems to happen. But I don't wanna, I can't name towns because I don't remember.
Well, I also suspect density has to do a lot with it too.
What's that?
Density,
Yeah.
population density. If you have
Oh, yeah.
to go 40 miles from one side of a town to another to service, there's only so many people.
Yeah, I'd be curious,
Yeah.
if you're a sheriff's department and one of your main goals, purposes is to do, road patrol. Say, it's like, well, how many miles are we covering? How many officers, do we have, per road mile,
Mhm.
or per square mile? I mean, so there's a bunch of other ways we could start to look at it. I mean, we're a small footprint, we're a smaller population compared to some of the other ones that have police departments, but, traffic count through your community is another one.
Yeah.
You've got traffic count data.
That's what-
That's not mentioned in there. That's one of the
That's a big
reasons.
one for us with the service center,
Right.
they alluded to that, that's part of that process is.
In the community
our
that's
service
over
center.
Augusta or Bangor, if you think of the traffic count that goes through there and the accidents that then happen that their fire and EMS and police are responding to, not because their town's population isn't such that necessarily it warrants it, but because that the activities are happening and someone's got to respond.
Right.
And so I think that's another metric that, well, how are we with the traffic count data on Main Street relative to Thomaston Route 1 versus Wiscasset? The state has set these up so we can go and find whatever they put out there. Hopefully it's all in the same year. I think it'd be another way to just kind of think about it. What's the number of people employed here during the daytime? It's certainly different than what's living here year round.
Yeah.
Right. How many people are in Wiscasset during the day?
Yeah.
Those are numbers I don't know that we'll actually get, but I'd be fascinated to know like what
It'd
that
also
looks
be,
like.
yeah, it'd also be interesting to plot the incidence of crime over the year.
Mhm.
As you said, a lot of people are not here, so.
Were
We
you
have the
volunteering to
Pumpkin
do that,
Fest.
John?
They pointed out in their report, we have the Pumpkin Fest, we have some other, events that bring people to the town.
We have,
And that's when a lot of, I mean, some of the businesses actually close because they have too much
Yeah.
crime during the Pumpkin Fest.
we have we have a large campground.
I was just gonna say,
about that.
campground season is probably
Yeah.
one of the bigger ones for
It's
call.
that's a
Yeah.
whole nother, that's a whole nother town that develops during the summertime out there, that they get numerous calls daily, for different things, so.
Well, we'll let our new chief
Yeah.
digest all this.
But this is a great tool for the new, incoming chief to work from, and I think hopefully we've set them up with some positive stuff, some tools to start up with, so.
Yeah, we've got a great department. There's some good stuff to
Yeah.
work with here and some, good places to move forward with.
So no, they're doing a great job.
I think we're all
Keep it up.
agreeing way too much. We need a disagreement.
I know, get to well,
Okay, what kind of-
we do have,
We have Boy Scouts here.
Yeah. Does anybody have any other discussion items to add this evening before we argue, or do we have?
Well, this may be controversial.
All right.
No, it won't be. It was just in the context of the police department report and then the public hearing that we had on it.
Yeah.
There was a fair amount of discussion about, well, what's gonna happen? We're all just related to LD 126 as it relates to cooperation with federal officers in relation to federal laws that they're
Right, yeah,
that's gonna become law now.
signed into play, yeah.
So that will become law,
Yeah.
so whatever that's worth.
Have folks
Right.
read that by chance?
Yeah, what's that?
Have folks read that language in that law?
I haven't. What is it called? Was it LD what?
I think it's one of me say, yeah.
I mean, it's interesting in that, there are almost contradicting
17.
paragraphs, one after the other in some ways. As I was reading it, I know some of the feedback from the law enforcement agencies that have provided some initial feedback in testimony during was to limit your involvement for these reasons, but not to exclude the ability to do this. And then down below it says, not to do some of those same things. And so I think there needs to be a little more clarity for those actually out there doing the work to understand like, yes, but when, and now not this. And so as I was reading it, what I've been hearing.
I guess I had a little more clarity. When I read it, it was a little clearer, I thought, but this group here is the main chiefs of police associations spoke against it, so.
Yeah, there's been, several, police groups that have spoken out against it, and so it'd be interesting to see, there may be some pushback, maybe some legal pushback too, with, constitutionality and things like that, but we'll see how it plays out.
Time will tell.
Yeah, so, All right, yeah. No argument.
Don't we have to?
Trying to give the gentleman something controversial here, we can.
No,
we can
Yeah,
argue.
we got into that series.
What if we,
without-
We need to have the Boy Scouts, don't we?
What if we went to adjourn and nobody wanted to or something? We'll go back and forth.
You gotta get reasons.
Yeah, anybody else have anything to add?
Andy, did we,
Andrea? Yeah.
did we get paid for the parking lot yet?
Not to my knowledge, I haven't asked Cheryl to look recently. The gentleman who was our contact, is still there. He reached out
Oh,
a few
that's
weeks
good.
ago and I reached back out to him. So there's something there. I have not had her look to see, recently.
Those
It'd be nice to get paid. wouldn't it?
Big, if you're being carried.
Bring that up. So, oh. Wait. Daryl, be quiet down there. Trying to give Ally something good for the paper. She's hiding back there. I'm gonna call you out. Is this the last Damariscotta?
It
select
is.
meeting for you?
Well, that could be controversial.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could try to, I don't know, create some kind of policy to bar me from going.
Yeah, what if we don't accept your resignation, or something like an official? Yeah, is that
John-
John?
Right here.
Now you get another hat on.
Slip that by him.
There you go.
Well, we appreciate your coverage and we're gonna be sorry to see you go. Yeah. Where are we headed back to?
Austin, Texas.
Back to Texas. All right. Cold weather didn't get to
Good
you
time to go.
It definitely has been colder than I expected. That's not, the.
This is
All
the
right.
beginning.
Yeah, give it a month.
As long as we didn't scare you away. So,
No,
yeah.
not at all, not at all.
So, thank you. All right, well, this was up to sign, but if anybody wants to make the motion to
I'll make a
adjourn,
motion for adjournment.
Tom? Oh, the Gail will second that.
Well, certainly, but,
Yeah.
You still
but I just
thinking,
wanted to wish everyone a
Oh.
Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate,
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Thank you, Dan. I forget that's coming up.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, blink
Well,
tomorrow.
that was your second and then your discussion.
Yes.
The discussion might have been there, so.
Yeah, I second
All right,
that.
so Dan seconded that. Thank you for that, misunderstand. And, okay, all those in favor? All right. We are adjourned. Let's, throw all this stuff down, Daryl down at the end.